Right, we're going to learn a little backyard jiu-jitsu. Some people just don't have the money, the time, or a location near them that they can go and practice their mixed martial arts at or their jiu-jitsu at. But you can practice it in the backyard. You can practice it right in your backyard because it's nice and soft on the grass a lot of times, and you won't get hurt. You're training with your friend or somebody, and so you can practice your jiu-jitsu right in the backyard, and then you can take it right into the street. So let's go over the basic things you want to do. Is that here's a good fighting stance. As you can see right here, this is me and my son. We're both in a pretty good fighting stance in the top picture. That means we both have our legs, one forward, one back. Both have our hands up, protecting our ribs, our sides, and our head is down. Our chin is tucked. In the second position, you see a bad fighting stance on his part and a better fighting stance on my part. His legs are square. When your feet are square, you're not going to be able to move. You're going to have to take a step to be able to move. Now, don't get me wrong here. When I say he's going to take a step, he's going to have to move his foot forward or backwards and then go forward and backwards. All I have to do is come forward. I have all my power. I can kick from this position. I can go forward. I can move to the right, to the left. When you're standing square, you just don't have a lot of movement. If you're in that stance, if you're in that position, you're very rarely off balance, and it's going to be very easy for someone to be able to run over you and take you down to the ground and submit you. So it's very important that you guys practice your stance and you practice walking in your stance, that you practice moving forward, moving backwards, and moving around in a good fighting stance. Let's learn a double leg takedown to a side mount. Now here he's in a good stance and he's dropping forward and down. Now he's going to drop forward with his knee and he's going to attack my left leg, and he's going to drop his knee forward, and then that knee, so many people stop right there and try and bend over. See his knee up in the air right here? His knee is up in the air in his first picture. You want to drop that knee down and drive your other knee over to his side, and you want to have your head up. So you're going to drop that knee down to the ground, drive your other knee back into his side, and your head is up, and you go to the side of him. Then you can push him over. You can lift him up if you want. You can slam him if you want. But it's just as effective from right there to just push him over, or just drive your body to his left side, which will push him right to the ground. And if you do that, you're going to be in a perfect good side mount position there. So that practice this is called a drop step, and this is the double leg drop step where he's grabbing behind my knees of both the legs, putting his hand on the head on the side, and immediately driving me over and around to the ground. And the only thing you have to be careful on this is that you don't get your head caught in the guillotine. But if you do this powerful and fast, you're going to pretty well be able to avoid that situation. Now we're going to do a counter to that double leg. He's going to try and shoot in, and he shot in, but he doesn't have a good position. He doesn't have his legs right. He doesn't have his legs right because the other knee is not on the ground. He's not in good position there. And because of that, he hasn't got the bounce he needs to drive through me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach underneath, and grab under his arm. This is called a cow catcher in wrestling move and stuff. And it's very easy to throw someone to the ground when you have him in a cow catcher. So I'm reaching underneath. I have him in a cow catcher right here. I'm just going to spin him and throw him to the ground. So when you reach underneath right here, you're securing his other arm, his right. I'm securing his left arm and my right arm. See how I've reached underneath it there in this picture right here? Now all I got to do is just rotate, and you'll just flip him literally all the way to the ground. Now what I'm doing is I continue my lifting. I drop to my knee, and I throw him to the ground. This isn't a cow catcher. This is a basic technique you learn in wrestling 101. And yet it'll work great in a backyard, especially against someone who has no idea how to attack you, who's just running into you and trying to just throw you on the ground, bull rush you and stuff. Well, that just doesn't work, but if you'll do this cow catcher, you can pretty well just flip him right over, and you're right in a perfect good side guard. So look at that. You're controlling one of his arms, you're reaching underneath and just lifting him up. You just start taking and just flipping him over. Just flipping him over. It's really a nice move, and it's very easy to do, so you should practice this in the clubs. He shoots in, you're going to reach underneath that arm, push down the other one, drop down to your knees, and just flip him over. You'll be right in a nice side mount. Nice technique. Now we're going to do what's called the amplified guillotine choke. The guillotine choke is a great choke where the guy's shot in and he's exposed his neck. And you're going to reach underneath and place your choking hand palm down against his back of the inside of his neck. Now, a lot of people in this position here will grab their own hand. So I'm reaching around his neck with my left hand, and I'm going to reach down and grab it with my right hand. So many people do that, and that's a great grip. It's very powerful, very hard to block, especially if they use a gable grip, so your fingers are not exposed. But this is an amplified one. This really ups the power. If you take your hand and instead of grabbing your own wrist, you're going to put it on top of the guy's shoulder. You're going to reach up and grab more towards about 4 or 5 inches above your wrist and put it on top of his shoulder. And when you do that, you get a gigantic leverage thing there. So now I can really, really do the guillotine and really choke him out. And it's a very effective thing. You know, there's some great fighters out of Dallas that are superb on the guillotine. Right here in Dallas, and they're very good chokes. It's very easy to use. You don't have to have a gi. It's a very powerful choke, and you can do it both ways, where you don't do it amplified, where I'm putting this up on his back, I'm really leveraging it across, or I can just reach and grab my own fist, and I can leverage it down. This is called the amplified guillotine, so it makes it even more powerful. So here he is. He's going to do a counter to the guillotine choke. I'm trying to snap in that guillotine choke. I'm going to snap in that guillotine choke, and I'm starting ready to reach down and grab my other hand and reach in and tighten it up. Now what he's going to do, he's going to reach down, put one hand on my back and one hand between the legs. So many people right there immediately just start trying to fight that guillotine or something. If you're in the street and you want to fight dirty, just punch him right in the groin. That'll tend to make him loosen up. That'll tend to make him loosen up pretty easy if you just punch him right in the nuts. But if you don't want to do that to your partner when you're doing backyard jiu-jitsu. So you're going to put one hand on his back, you're going to reach through his legs, and you're going to lift him up. And it's really not that difficult to lift, but I want to make sure you do 2 things when you do this lift. You're going to reach down there, grab and lift. You're going to lift with your legs. See how his legs are bent? And then he's going to lift me up by just simply straightening his legs. Just simply straightening his legs. Now I still have my hand wrapped around his neck, but now he's got me up in there, and I'm going to tell you something. That's a pretty hard fall to take. When you pick up somebody and you smash them on the ground right there, and you can literally jump forward. You can literally jump forward and smash him on the ground and move your hands out of the way so you don't hurt your hands when you fall. But when you have him up in the air in this position here, when you have him lifted up, you have him parallel to the ground, you can just jump forward and smash him right on the ground, and boy, you can almost break the guy's back. And of course, you're going to land in a great side mount, and you're even going to have his leg control, so he's not in any position to defend himself. First of all, because I have my hand up, I can't slap out. You remember that we learned to break falls in some of my other videos and books. If you don't break that fall, the fall's going to break you. So here, I'm slapping the ground, and I don't get to slap the ground. So he smashed you right on the ground. You're not getting to break out. You're not getting to slap out. So you're just going to have a hard fall. The chances the very least is going to happen is you're going to get your breath knocked out. You're going to have a terrific fall there. You're going to get your breath knocked out. And then he's going to be able to pretty well finish you. So that's a great little technique for breaking the guillotine and for winning the fight too. So let's learn the basic guillotine, standing up guillotine. He's shooting in, and he's just dived into me, and he hasn't even gone to his knees. So I'm reaching deep in, and I'm reaching way underneath and grabbing hold of his neck. I put my forearm right against his neck. Right against his neck. This is a guillotine is a blood choke, and it's also an air choke. So it really can devastate you and kill you. So when I drive it in there, I'm going to now in this one, because I'm not doing the amplified guillotine, I'm going to reach up and grab my other wrist in the gable lock, and then I'm going to bend my back and straighten up. And when I bend my back and lift my hips into it, it really augments the lift and really creates a terrific amount of pressure, and it really will choke him out in about 20-30 seconds. So when someone gets you in that position, folks, you better go back here and remember how to get out of it with that guillotine lift, because they got you in that position. If you don't break out of it in 20-30 seconds, you're pretty well going to be screwed, and you're going to be choked out. So you've got to, as soon as you feel that pressure coming, you've got to react. Too many people wait till someone has got the pressure in there and deep and hard before they try to react. Here I'm going to reach over my partner. He's shooting in, and I'm reaching over, and I'm going to control him by locking my arms against the back of his neck. I'm going to reach up and lock my arm against the back of his neck, and I'm going to control his other arm. Then I'm going to be able to drop him to the ground. So he shot in, and I'm ducking my arm underneath. Now that gives me the ability to turn him. So as he shoots in, I'm taking that arm, taking it in deep, pushing it past my elbow, and driving it around towards his back. At the same time, I'm taking my right arm, and pushing him across my body. When I push him across my body, this is going to allow me to just kick his leg out. From here, I could just do a simple sweep, or I can just fall to the ground forward, and he's going to have a very hard fall going to the ground. So you want to make sure you do this easy. If I want to set him on the ground. Now I've got him sitting on the ground there, and I'm leaning him backwards because I have his arms controlled there. So I have him, this is like what's called a crucifix. And you want to be really careful when you do this because this creates an awful lot of pressure on somebody's neck. It's called a neck crank. And you don't want to do neck cranks unless you just have to, because a lot of schools won't even let you do neck cranks when you're practicing because it's just too dangerous. It hurts, too much risk of hurting the other guy's neck and too much danger involved with it. But when I got right here, all I'm doing is pushing my shoulder back, keeping my arm completely locked around his so he can't move or roll forward or out of it, and just cranking that neck down. And that can actually collapse all the way to the ground. This can really hurt somebody's neck. So be careful. This is a nice technique, but it's a neck crank and it's very vicious on the neck. There's an ankle pick. So I've shot in, or I'm doing as you can see, a pretty bad shot in, but this is what most people who don't know how to do wrestling will do, where they're shooting in with their legs an awful lot more straight up and down. And he is going to grab my head, so sort of lock it up, but he's going to reach down, and he's going to do what's called picking my ankle. So he's going to reach down by driving back straight into me at this angle here. So he's driving straight across me and into me, and that's called an ankle pick. And he's going to lift that ankle, and he'll drive me straight to the ground. And he can wind up in a side guard or in a half guard. And and he's also got his hand wrapped around the neck, so he could come up and step out of that and flip over and do a nice guillotine if he wanted to too, or a submission choke in there. But this ankle pick is a great way to take somebody down. The great Kyle Sanderson, who never lost a match in his entire collegiate wrestling career, the only person to ever do that, he used the ankle pick a lot. He was so fast because you could just drive right in there, pick him with that ankle, and take him right to the ground. And then in wrestling, this is a pin. So as soon as I hit him like this, I picked him up, I got his shoulders touching, he's pinned. In the streets, you're going to have to do a finish from here. This is the sprawl. Now I'm going to shoot on the guy, and the second that he sees me shooting, he has to immediately begin to sprawl. And what he's going to do is jump straight backwards and thrust his hips towards the ground and put his pressure onto the middle of my back. So he's jumping straight backwards, putting pressure and pushing me to the ground and putting all the weight on the middle of my back and controlling me there just like that. So he has a great technique right there, and he's doing a great sprawl, and it's very hard for me to overcome that sprawl. Even if I have his leg, he's sprawled, he's up on his toes. He's got his head up, and now from here he can spin around. After I've done a bad shot here, and he sprawled on me, forcing me straight down to the ground, he can spin around. Or he can come and do the same thing, that cow catcher move, where he just takes me and flips me right over. So when he sprawled like that, and I've shot, and I'm landing right on my face in front of him, he could just spin. And one of the moves you practice a lot in Jiu Jitsu is that you'll wind up in a sprawl, and you'll run around, and you'll walk around, and you actually put your hands behind your head, and you'll actually walk around him back and forth. But in this position right here, he has got a great sprawl, and he can underhook my arm and just flip me right over and be in a nice side control position. Or from right there, he can easily do a real nice ground and pound. So he's in a doubly good position here, folks. Here is a sprawl sit out. I've shot in, and I've got him up here. I shot in, and you got him up high, and he didn't get to do a great sprawl. So I sort of caught him before he can sprawl deep. And so what he's going to do is called a sit out. He's going to simply sit, pop to his hips, control my upper arm. He's going to pop to his hip and control the upper arm. At the same time, he's going to be able to sit out and spin around. So he's going to sit out and control the other arm. His other arms go down. His other arm goes down to balance him. And now he can just do a spin around. So he's going to actually just pop down, sit down. Now he's going to spin around, take his arm out, he can come right around, and he can come right into a good back control. So it's a pretty cute little technique. It's called the sit out. You need to learn to do that if you're going to be a championship fighter, championship MMA fighter, or a good wrestler, you need to learn to do the sit out where you pop down and you spin around. And notice when he spins around, he's got his other hand up. That hand that was on the ground is going up in the air. That gives him a lot of momentum, gives him a lot of turning power, and he can come over and take complete control and wind up in a north-south mount, and then he can really start pounding the ground in me.